Okay, gentlemen, if I can have your attention, please. It's my distinct honor that I'm able to recognize and tell you a little bit about the next speaker that I'm going to bring up to the podium here today. And it's the West Virginia Secretary of State, Natalie Tennant. Throughout her administration, she's been a leader in promoting open and engaging government and business-friendly initiatives. She's streamlined the Secretary of State's office to make it more efficient and cost-effective, while improving services for voters, candidates, business owners, and citizens who depend upon the office for important information about charities and administrative law. Under her leadership, the Secretary of State's office has met unprecedented challenges and promoted bold initiatives. Most recently, Secretary Tennant spearheaded legislation to allow for electronic voter registration in West Virginia, something that you guys will get to do later this year or next. In 2013, thanks to years of cost savings and efficiency programs, Secretary Tennant was able to return $3 million of taxpayer money to general revenue. She also, her vision includes pilot projects that improve voter turnout and decrease costs. It secured community voting locations to make it more convenient to cast ballots, online annual report filings, and save business money, as well as transfer to the state government. One innovative effort that Ms. Tennant has taken in transparency is live webcasting and social media, so citizens can have an unfiltered look at what actions her office is taking. West Virginia has also emerged as a leader on the national stage when it comes to making it easier for deployed military to vote using a safe and secure internet connection. Along with her duties as Secretary of State, Ms. Tennant was the first West Virginian chosen for the Aspen Institute Rodale Fellowship Program. In 2011, the Secretary of State's office hosted the National Association of Secretaries of State Summer Conference for the first time ever here in West Virginia. With her today is her daughter Delaney, and Ms. Tennant currently resides in Charleston with her husband Eric Wells. So let's have a big Mountaineer Boy State welcome for Secretary of State Natalie Tennant.
Well, hello, men of tomorrow. Be proud of yourselves. I am proud of you. The state of West Virginia is proud of you. Your parents are proud of you. Those parents who are watching on the webcast, they certainly appreciate a transparent Boys State and being able to see an unfiltered look at camp. And I want to give you a little insight coming from a parent. You know, when they go on, maybe they're watching live right now, the webcast, or maybe your significant other is watching. But when they're watching or they're watching the recorded version, I can tell you about from a parent's standpoint that they're not really you. They are very proud of you. And they're glad that you're here and not at home necessarily. Just like you're glad to be here and not at home. But I can tell you that they just want to get a little insight to how you're doing, because they see this as a wonderful opportunity for you, as a great opportunity for our state, and to be able to log on and see maybe what you're seeing, it makes them feel connected. They just want to, feel that personally, that pride. So text your parents and tell them, yeah, you can go on the website and watch us. Right now, Secretary Tennant is speaking. As a matter of fact, I just told my daughter, Mr. Horn introduced me talking about my husband. He's actually deployed. He's a Navy reservist who is deployed in Djibouti. That's where he is. Do you know where he is? Well, in some cases, I hope you do, that you know where Djibouti is. All right. The men of tomorrow got that joke, but no, really, he is in Djibouti, Africa. It's the Horn of Africa. He's a public affairs office, and he's at Camp Lemonnet, where we have about 5,000 military members. And thankfully, there is communication. And I should have probably texted him and said, you can get a chance to see through the webcast of Boy Steak to watch me. They are 7 hours ahead, so 7 plus 1, so it's 8 o'clock in the evening. Perfect time for him to be watching Boy Steak, right? In Djibouti, Africa. And Djibouti is that Horn of Africa. It's surrounded by Somalia, and across the water is Yemen. So a little bit of history that is so important for all of us to know when we talk about what we're doing as Americans and what we're doing across the waters. And yes, an area for all of us Americans, and especially for because such connection to our military, and we rank near the top when it comes to our military members serving, or West Virginia serving in the military per capita. So we can be proud of ourselves for doing that. And I'm proud to know that West Virginians are for our way of life and fighting for who we are as Americans and doing that. So, and many of you may be in uniform someday too, so I thank you for your future service as well. Well, you know, I told you that I'm always happy to be here, and I love hearing the song when you all walk in and just seeing your faces. Now, I know that you're eager and young, but you're more eager to go get something to eat. I just see you as truly men and leaders of tomorrow for the state of West Virginia. And, you know, a lot of times people will look at us and look at us as leaders on what we do. And sometimes we might trip up a little bit, don't we? And it's not so much what we do, but it's how we react that is even more important, that folks want to follow and see how is this person, this young leader reacting. And so those are focuses that we should have when we react to what happens. And how we react can be determined by how we prepare, right? If you're well prepared, you're not making just a split-second reaction. So I'm going to ask you and to see if you can remember any history in its recent history. We already talked about some world history and world geography with Djibouti. And I'm now going to ask you if anybody has ever heard of Superstorm Sandy. Yes? Very good. When did Superstorm Sandy happen? 2012. There. So established it 3 years ago, 2012. What was taking place when Superstorm Sandy hit in 2012? What was taking place? Elections. You guys are good. You're really good. So Superstorm Sandy hit October 29th. We saw it coming, right? We saw the radar system, and I can remember thinking, are we prepared? What kind of storm is it going to be? Now, certainly we know we didn't take the brunt of it because we saw that in New Jersey especially, but boy, did we take a brunt, did we not? To have on October 29th and October 30th, snowstorms where we got more than a foot of snow in some areas of the state. And the irony is that you had, you know, a foot of snow in Nicholas and over in Wood County, you barely had anything. You guys remember that in 2012? So you're right, there was an election taking place. And we were in the midst of early voting in West Virginia. And so folks had the opportunity to go to their early voting location, and mostly, more than likely, they were at courthouses or maybe at a judicial annex in that county. And a few counties had to shut down, had to shut their courthouses down. So they had to get the official okay to stop early voting from the Secretary of State's office, because we have to work hand in hand to make sure that the integrity and the accessibility of our elections is intact. And also what was taking place is, I speak of Nicholas County, but I know Barber County and Preston County. We had the National Guard was on alert. So the National Guard was deployed. Folks from the division in Morgantown, I think it's 249th, if I'm correct. Or some folks from down in Charleston, National Guard in Charleston. So they were deployed to go just to Nicholas County or to Barber County. Well, guess what? Those folks hadn't voted yet. And they were not going to be back in time by November 6th election. They were not going to make early voting. So what were we to do? Were we going to say, it's all right, just a few people can't vote? No, we're not going to say that at all. And especially when they are men and women in uniform who sacrifice when putting on that uniform, whose family sacrifices, who now has been deployed from, even if it's Charleston or Morgantown or Wood County, to go and not be able to vote. But you know what? We had a plan in place. We had an idea. We had already prepared beforehand. Remember in the introduction when he mentioned that in the Secretary of State's office we've led the way, we've led the comes to providing accessibility to our deployed military members? Well, in 2010, we had a pilot project of online ballot delivery, that the ballot could be delivered online to a military member who was deployed. They could vote, they could print it off, mail it back, or email it back, and they would have voted. So then it was put in place permanently in 2012. And we had been using that. And certainly we think, oh, it's about those folks who are deployed around the country or around the world, our overseas citizens as well. Maybe somebody serving in Djibouti, that they would be prepared and be able to vote. Well, little did we know that some West Virginians who were serving in West Virginia would be using that system. And they did use that same system because we had to make sure and wanted to make sure that they had the ability to vote, even being deployed in Superstorm Sandy. Prepared. So the reaction of how we reacted to this superstorm, and when I say we, it's not just the Secretary of State's office, it was county clerks around the state. It was county commissioners who also serve as election officials during the canvassing period. So it was all of us working together. This is the way we reacted because we were prepared. Now, I only tell you that story. I don't usually tell that story about Superstorm Sandy and making sure that uniform and those who are first responders are going to have the opportunity, right? You guys voted on the machines and then you voted again by paper ballot, right? To make sure that that primary election was the response and the results of what to happen, right? Of what your voices that you wanted to be heard and who nominate in a primary to go to a general election. So that's just part of the process. Folks don't get to see that. They don't realize that you just don't put an election on like that, especially when it comes to the touch screen machine they have to be programmed. And then in the same time, you also have to have the testing that goes on beforehand and the public testing, and that's what takes place. So I'm glad that you all reacted in a positive way, that you reacted. You took it in stride, right? And just voted on paper ballot. I'm proud of the way that the counselors reacted in taking it in stride and printing out ballots. And now we're ready for the general night, correct? All right, all right. And I know there's some folks out there. I love elections, and it is an opportunity for folks to give some ideas. It's also gives folks an opportunity to vote and feel the way they want to feel, certainly. And I've been on both ends of elections. I've won elections and I've lost elections. And it's good that you all have put your names on the ballot because you have some ideas you think that are going to make a difference. And in the prayer that we heard Zane talking about the changes that we want to make to our world and to our fellow. Well, you know, I was just where you were at one time in my life, long, long time ago. And I thought that I had some good ideas for my school. And so I ran for freshman class president at North Marion High School. Where's my North Marion folks? There you go. I think there's like 14 of you guys or something, aren't there? All right, right, Gavin? I see you back there. North Marion wrestler, probably one of many. So I ran for freshman class president because I really wanted to be student body president, and I felt you got to prepare yourself, right? Got to work your way up. So I ran for freshman class president, and guess what happened? I lost. I did. So I ran for a sophomore class president, and I lost. Did somebody hear this story before? Probably told it a few times, but it makes a point. So I figured, all right, I'm going to run for junior class president at North Marion High School. And guess what happened? I lost. So you would think that after 3 times losing, I would have gotten the hint, right? But I really wanted to be student body president because my sister was the first and only woman at Fair, because then they consolidated after that. So I was lucky because, you know, when you run for class president, it's just your class, right? Run for student body president. You get the whole school. Those demographics get a little bit bigger, don't they? The voting block gets a little bit bigger. So I'm telling you, I worked my butt off. I went out back. They still have Outback, Gavin? Some folks who don't think it's important to go vote sometimes will go out back. I went out there, and I saw one of my classmates from Fairview. And I said, Terry, you got to come vote for me. Please come vote. Please bring all of your friends. So, and he was a senior, and I was a junior, so I was working, and I'm like, Terry, come on, come bring your friends. And I was talking to sophomores and juniors as well, right, Governor? Because, you know, as you were just saying, yeah, you got to know everybody. And so I ran for student body president. And guess what happened? I won. I won. Yeah. Thank you. USA, USA. All right. There you go. Not Djibouti, right? USA. So why do I tell you that story? Well, I tell you that story because if you haven't realized it yet at your age, you're going to have your failures and your trip-ups, but it's all in how we handle it, right? Get used to it because it's bound to happen no matter what we do. You're going to have all kinds of disappointments in your life as well. You may lose an election, fail. You may ask out someone who sits next to you in math and get rejected, right? But it's all in how you handle it. And you can't let trip up or that fail define you. I mean, imagine if I would have let those 3 losses define me. I'd have been known as the girl who kept trying to be class president and lost. That's all I would have been known as. But now I get to be known as, yeah, she failed 3 times. She lost 3 times and kept trying, and she finally won. Maybe they felt sorry for me. I don't know. Those sympathy votes count just as easy as the other votes, let me tell you. That's right. So you can't let the failures define you. You yourself off, you got to keep moving forward. And since we're speaking of elections, I want to tell you about something, because you all know how important elections are, right? You're getting to see it here today. You're getting to see it here this week with how important one single vote is. The time period where it didn't matter what 18-year-olds thought in terms, Remember, well, maybe you've heard about it, but 18-year-olds weren't allowed to vote. You had to be 21 to vote. Someone, though, who believed in 18-year-olds. He believed in 18-year-olds because through a couple wars, through World War II, and it culminated in the Vietnam War, that there was this saying, because what happened in the Vietnam War? What did 18-year-olds have to do? Right? So there was this saying that if you were old enough to fight and die for your country, that you should be old enough to vote for those who are sending you there. Now, there was a man who believed in you. You've never met him. He didn't know you, but he believed in 18-year-olds who have an opportunity to vote in a primary election before they turn 18, which will be the case next year. But this man was from a little old town, from a little old state. Can anybody tell me? Jennings Randolph, colleague of Robert Byrd, from Salem in Harrison County. Now, he helped to introduce the legislation to lower the age from 21 to 18. Constitutional amendment. So he introduced it, and guess what happened? It failed. So he introduced it again, and guess what happened? It failed. He introduced it again, and guess what happened? So he introduced it again, and guess what happened? So on the fifth time, because the fourth time it failed, on the fifth time, he introduced it again because he believed in 18-year-olds. He believed that if you were old enough to fight and die for your country, that you should be old enough to vote for those who are sending you there. So on the fifth time when he introduced this legislation, guess what happened? It failed. Yeah. Tell me about it. Tell me about it. So, what would you all do after it failed 5 times? Try again? Let those 5 defeats define you? No. All right, so guess what? Jennings Randolph listened to you, I guess, kind of. Maybe he had vision and passion. So the legislation again a 6th time, and guess what happened? It failed. Giggling, but you know what's going on? 18, 19, and 20-year-olds who didn't have a to vote are still dying in Vietnam. So he introduces it a 7th time, and guess what happens? It fails. So he introduces it a 9th time, and guess what happens? It fails. So he introduces it a 9th time, and guess what happened? It fails. Now this is the 10th time. He's Jennings Randolph. He's from a little old town in a little old state who has a huge belief in 18-year-olds, that if you're old enough to fight and die for your country, you should be old enough to vote for those who are sending you there. So he introduces it a 10th time. What happens? It fails. I know, it's something to talk about, isn't it? Would you all have the fortitude to do that? I mean, think about it. We want to say yes. I mean, do you think that Jennings was ridiculed? Probably. Made fun of, that is ridicule. Told to go back to West Virginia and sit down. That 18-year-olds really aren't worth it. We're just gonna draft them, or we're gonna send them off to war. You think he was probably told that? Yeah, I think he probably was told that. But he also had 18-year-olds on his side, too. I mean, what is more compelling than being sent to war with the possibility of dying? Because what, 57,000 Americans died or more died in the Vietnam War? And about 15 to 20,000 of those were 18, 19, 20-year-olds, and even some 17-year-olds who lied about their age to get in. What would you do if you were Jennings Randolph? Try again? Well, you know what he did. He tried again. And guess what happened? Passed on the 11th time. Passed on the 11th time, yeah. Woo! USA. There you go. How about WVA, too? Thank goodness, Neil Bolyard, we had some hard Virginian who said, I am going to stand up for 18-year-olds. I'm going to stand up for you. Now, did you meet Jennings Randolph anytime, Neil? Many times, and I know that there are pictures of him being here. Can you imagine, if I think how proud I am standing here this song, seeing all these young men of the state of West Virginia here standing together. Yes, you're going to have debates. Yes, you're going to have elections. Yes, some are going to win and some are going to lose. But I'm telling you, we had a natural disaster or sometime a superstorm Sandy hit right now. I know that all nearly 400 of you would be out in the community helping out, right? I believe in you. Jennings Randolph believed in you. Do you believe in you? All right, it sounds good, but how many 18-year-olds go and vote? Not too many. So here is your charge today and this week. You guys leaders of your school? I know you are. I know you're leaders of your community. Where's my buddy Stephen Grow? I saw your sign, but I haven't seen you, Stephen. There you are. Oh, I got to put my glasses on. Yep, there he is. I know him. There you go. I see him. There's a lot of guys here that I know too, but I might not be able to recognize you right now. But I know that you are leaders in your community. And you are an example. There's Riley. You, yep. So are folks watching you? You think, oh, I'm having a great time. I get to do all kind of different things. Gavin goes to state wrestling tournaments. Stephen is a Golden Horseshoe winner, right? Riley is at YLA. Who else does other things? You do all of these things and you think, oh, I'm having a blast. But what kind of leader are you ending up in being? Things that you do, yes, you're making positive work, you're stepping forward. But when maybe something bad happens, maybe you lose an election, how are you reacting? And more importantly, how are you reacting when others are hurting? How are you reacting when others need a little lift? How are you reacting when you see somebody walking alone, or you see somebody just being picked on? That's really what this week should be about also. To that voting, because yes, you are leaders. A chosen few get to come to Boys State. What are you showing them? Are you showing that those failures got a hold of you? I mean, how many of you would like to be like Mike? My goodness, this is long before you guys were even born. Michael Jordan, anybody ever heard of him? Okay. All right. He was cut from his high school basketball team. One of the greatest players, well, no, we know that Jerry West was the greatest professional basketball player, right? And there's LeBron James. We'll see if he can bring home a... I know, hey, I like Steph Curry too. I just want him to keep winning. I want to see the kid. She's awesome. So anyway, Michael Jordan failed, right? Do you guys know that Albert Einstein got very poor grades when he was in school? Mostly D's and F's? Wow. So you're going to let those failures define you? Nope. Because you should embrace those failures. You should embrace those trip-ups. Because one, it gives you a great story when you got to come back and talk to Boys State. But two, it shows your fortitude of who you are. It shows that you have a can-do attitude and you have a try attitude. And that's what you have to be able to show other people as well. And so that's the opportunities that you have today. It's not necessarily how we act, but how we react and how we prepare to how we react. And opportunity and preparation here this week and today. And I'm just honored that I get to be a part of this, and I feel confident in the future of the state when I see all of you, many of you on the ballot in about 5 or 10 years. All right? So thank you all very much. Thank you for the nation that you've shown, and keep going strong and be strong men of tomorrow. Thank you.